Meanwhile, are on course to beat South Africa in the second test in Durban. South Africa are 349 for 7, short of their victory target of 546.
I've never been fined, and you know, I am excessively appealing, as you know.
BBC Radio Manchester, satellite weather with Diane Oxbury.
Now that we've got rid of the overnight rain, it shouldn't be a bad day today. The cloud cover is gradually starting to thin, and I think as you go through the day, you will see some brighter skies coming through. Thankfully, the wind is much, much lighter than yesterday, and in the brightest spots, the temperatures feel pretty good. We'll go for a high of 10 Celsius.
Allan Beswick with you on the phones.
0161 228 2255.
BBC Radio Manchester.
A very good day to you. How are you? Are you all right? Belting. I don't know. I've just been... I don't know why they send me this. They must think I care. I've just received an email from the Dogs Trusts list. No, nor have I. But there you are. And it's about the things... The 10... We all know. I'll just read it, because I can't make sense of it, really. It's an advert, so we'll leave that out. Then we'll just have the fun of it without the advert. These are the 10 most unusual items swallowed by dogs in the last 6 months. And now tell me dogs aren't stupid. 23 cigarettes. Presumably that was a beagle. Sorry. 20 uncooked chips, or putting it another way, 2 potatoes. 12 foil wrappers, 8 contraceptive tablets, so the dog had no kids, but that's all right because the owner had 4. 6 grapes, 5 tortilla wraps, 3 advent calendars. A dog has eaten an advent. 2 ibuprofen, so it felt out. 1 mobile phone charger, and get this, half a daffodil bulb. Presumably it bit into it, swallowed a bit, and went, ooh, no, I don't really think so. Ooh, no, dearie me. Oh, dear, dear, dear. Never mind. What's the strangest thing your dog has swallowed? How about some arsenic? Never mind. Oh, stop it. 0161 228 2255. If you've got something to say, that's fine. Just pick up your phone and have your say. You can talk about anything. There's all sorts going on in the world. Not a lot of it good, but there you are. Also, you can text on 07786 206 951. And, of course, you can so very easily, if you thus desire, can email. It's radiomanchester@bbc.co.uk. So that's it, really. That's the gist of what there is. Yeah. Just pick up your doobry and rattle your gums, or move your fingers up and down the keys, or indeed stumble about with your thumb. Dear Alan, I read every letter that comes in. It doesn't take me long, because we don't get many now. You see, we used to get loads. It's no wonder. We used to have umpty-back postmen, because we got so much letter stuff. But we don't anymore. It's all email and telephone. But Maureen in Bolton is a traditionalist, and Maureen in Bolton sent me this. After hearing most of your programme today... Now, she wrote this on the 6th of March, which was last Friday. That's the other problem with the old snail mail, isn't it? But after hearing most of your programme on Friday, I heard you talk about peas above sticks. Do you remember? Somebody used that phrase in... I think it was in a text somebody used the phrase, and I remarked that I'd not heard it before. Which is fair enough. Well, during my working days, says Maureen, one of my colleagues used to say that so-and-so was peas above sticks, and when asked what she meant, she said it described someone who's too big for their boots, or an arrogant know-all who actually knows nought. I don't know why, I'm feeling a little hot under the collar at the moment. I'm wondering where this might be going. She came from West Orton and said it was quite a common description round there. Also, someone was talking about uneducated people. probably meaning those who don't possess a university degree of any sort. Well, I have to say that there are lots of people with first-class honours degrees with not a scrap of common sense, and that includes many MPs and hierarchy on both political sides. So there. So, Maureen, thank you very much indeed. And it was me that talked about people not being well educated. And yes, I agree with you without reservation that education is not the be-all and end-all. Yes, one can go to school and college and university and all the rest of it and learn to regurgitate facts in order to gain a qualification, and at the end of it know absolutely nothing about life. But we were talking about those people who live their lives that way, either because that's all they can manage, or indeed they can't manage a degree or the rest of it. They are uneducated. It isn't their fault that they're uneducated often. Some of them it is. Some of them are just idle at school and wouldn't work. But some of them don't have the wherewithal to be educated. But that doesn't mean they can't be bright. It doesn't mean they can't be sensible. It doesn't mean that they don't know how the world works and run it. But it does mean they're not going to become a doctor or a lawyer or an accountant, although judging by the way they've been operating recently, perhaps you could become an accountant without any education at all, because frankly, I can give money away to people who don't deserve it, and I can steal from the till. So I would be the ideal chairman of a bank for sure.
This is the Northwest's biggest sports station. This is BBC Radio Manchester.
Every game is becoming more and more important for our local football teams as the promotion issues are decided.
What an impact that is crafted in somehow! To the back of the net.
Tonight from 7, we're following vital games for Stockport against Hartlepool, Bury at Morecambe, Rochdale against Bradford, and Macclesfield against Accrington Stanley. Exactly.
Manchester Sports. Tonight from 7, BBC Radio Manchester.
Accrington Stanley? Come on. Alan, when you interview the Chief Constable on Friday, maybe you'd like to reinforce an important point that you put to your listeners a few months ago, that we don't really have any protection against things that make people's lives misery, like some forms of petty crime, noisy neighbours, barking dogs, and given that it diminishes the quality of so many people's lives, it's an issue that needs to be taken far more seriously. Well, I could do that, whoever you are in your texting, but the idea of the Chief Constable coming in on Friday is not for me to put your points to him, but for you to do so. I bump into Chief Constables and people like that because I'm dead posh and I go to events as your representative. But I go to things, so I bump into people like the Chief Constable and I can ask them things like that. But you don't have that opportunity because I'm having it on your behalf. So the idea of Friday is to give you that opportunity. So if you want to put that point to him, you would be more than welcome from 1 o'clock on Friday. The programme starts at the usual time of 12, and then from 1, we've got the Chief Constable. And then tomorrow, from 1 o'clock, and I hesitate to mention this in case you go by me already, but from 1 o'clock tomorrow, we've got, of course, the man from Digital UK. So all about the switch off in November, how to prepare for it, why we're getting it, and indeed what will work, what won't work, and what you can do about it. Because we got tons and tons of people ringing in last time with a myriad of questions. And yes, there will be some repetition of the questions then, but I've never shied away from repetition. I've never shied away from repetition, as you know. Yeah, it wasn't funny. I know it wasn't. Never mind. 0161 228 2255. The Independent front page says they're off. The Cheltenham Festival is underway. Won't change my life much, but there you are. And this story about the policeman that was killed in the Ulster attack. Fears of a return to troubles after the third fatal shooting in 3 days. Northern Ireland was plunged into deeper security crisis last night when a police officer was shot dead in Craigavon in County Armagh, the third member of the security forces to die in as many days. His killing is assumed to be the work of Republican dissidents of the type who murdered the 2 soldiers at Antrim near Belfast on Saturday night. That base is actually nearer to Ballymena than it is to Belfast, but who the hell knows where Ballymena is, apart from about 20 people. And then there's a photograph of the soldier who was killed, or one of the 2 soldiers who was killed, on the front page of the Independent, heading for Afghanistan, killed in Antrim. Sapper Mark Quincy Pictured with his mother, Pamela, and sister, Jamie, the Ministry of Defence yesterday named Sapper Quincy and Sapper Patrick Azimka, who's 21, as the two victims of Saturday night's terrorist attack outside the Mezzarine barracks in Antrim, the day before they were due to fly out to serve in Afghanistan. Well, I mean, are the troubles back with us, or is it just there are people who have been injured and murdered and all sorts of things horrible happened to them since the Good Friday Agreement, but it hasn't been reported because they weren't Brits or they weren't coppers, so they don't really matter, do they, as we try to pretend that it's all sorted out. Well, clearly it isn't all sorted out, but there you are. What do you think? Hunt for the terror gunmen who sprayed 60 bullets. Adams backs the police, but not the army. Criticism of Sinn Féin's reaction to the murders of the two British soldiers in Antrim has highlighted the stark distinction which now exists in the Republican psyche between the army and the police. Commentators have complained that the statement issued by party president Gerry Adams, and remember, he's never been convicted of or admitted to being a member of the IRA, unlike his cohort Martin McGuinness. Anyway, the statement issued was too little too late, coming as it did 14 hours after the killings, and with a tone described as cool and over-clinical. They're not going to get bleeding hearts out of him, are they, really? They're just not going to get bleeding hearts out of him. He's not that kind of person. I'm not altogether sure there's any merit in him thus being. Universities are dumbing down, and they ignore cheating, according to a report before MPs. Universities, and we're surrounded by the beggars here, aren't we? What have we got? We got Bolton, which pretends it's a university if it isn't, but it calls itself one, so it must be. We got Salford, we got the Manchester Metropolitan, we've got the University of Manchester, of course, which is amalgamated with UMIST. We've got all that going on, so we're surrounded by the beggars. Professor Geoffrey Alderman, the former academic chairman who caused uproar last year by claiming lecturers were under pressure to mark positively and turn a blind eye to plagiarism, told a Commons Select Committee monitoring higher education that there had been a systemic failure to maintain degree standards for the last 20 years. Well, there has to be, doesn't it? If you think about it, if the government wants half of all youngsters to go to university, the only way you can achieve that is by making university easier to get to. It's right. Please don't get upset again. That lady will be writing again from Bolton. Imagine this, if you will. If Manchester United were told by the government that they had to have a squad of 1,000 players, all right? Just stick with me. No, I know it's not going to happen. We're just using this as a measurement, as an example. If Manchester United were told that they've got to have a squad of 1,000 players, how good do you think the 999th would be? Do you think it'd be brilliant? Do you think it'd be the next Beckham? Do you think they'd have 1,000 brilliant players? No, they'd still have the squad they've got now. What is it, 30 players or something? They'd still have that squad. They'd still have another 30 that were struggling to get into the side, either coming back from injury or they're in the academy or something like that. They might even, at the end of it, have 100 players who were either brilliant or were working towards being brilliant, perhaps. But the other 900, they'd be also rans. They'd be cannon fodder. Football cannon fodder, if you will. So if you say we want half the population to go to university, that means that you've got to send some drongos. I'm sorry, it just does. It's the nature of the beast. It can't be avoided. There's nothing wrong with not having a university degree, but diminishing the value of university degrees so that the thickos can get them to meet government targets clearly is pointless. Clive in Northwich has a question. Dear Alan, what is the derivation of cutting the mustard? In other words, we've just done peas above sticks, which is not as much fun as I thought it was going to be, to be honest, but never mind. Yeah, but what is the origin of the phrase cutting the mustard? Am I turning into Stephen Fry? Just not as clever as him, but then nobody else is either. Yeah. Well, cut the mustard, cutting the mustard. I suppose the phrase is... I mean, they say of people, he cannot cut the mustard. So if you were past tensing that, you would say, what is the origin of cutting the mustard? Indeed. But that's what they say, isn't it? They say, oh, he can't cut the mustard. I've never heard anybody say he can. It's not one of the... Oh, he's really good, yeah, he can cut the mustard, you know. Because you'd think, well, it's not that hard, it's quite soft, and you've got a knife. I mean, bloody hell, how hard is it? I mean, if they said, cut the anvil in half, well, that'd take all day with an hacksaw, but cut the mustard. Dear God, you can spread the stuff. Just a thought. It's 12 on BBC Radio Manchester. News headlines. Mark Edwards.
A dissident Republican group is reported to have admitted murdering a police officer in Northern Ireland last night. Police have been given more time to interview two men arrested in Scarborough in connection with the murder of a Goulburn man. And the Formula One driver Lewis Hamilton is at Buckingham Palace to receive his MBE. Manchester's weather, a dry afternoon, some sunny spells and highs of 9 Celsius.
BBC Radio Manchester. 2020 traffic.
Watch out for the Whitworth Street roadworks in Manchester City Centre between Gloucester Street and Albion Street, just near the old Hacienda crossroads there, near the Deansgate locks. Expect delays there. It's the water main repair works that are happening. Shaw Road, the 663 between Blackshaw Lane and High Barn Road in Shaw. We've got roadworks there and temporary lights. It's going to affect you if you're travelling between Newhay and Royton for the next month. We now know the Continental Flights airline from New York was due in at 5 to 9 this morning, now expected to land at 20 past 1 this afternoon. That's flight CO100. And Stockport County playing tonight. Kick off at 7:45, so expect delays off the M60 around Stockport and on the Mercian Way and the main A6 and Bramall Lane. If you want to update us on anything else currently, it's 0161 244 4951. I'm Matthew Cameron.
You're never more than 20 minutes away from the latest traffic through the day.
Derek is feeling quite bitter this morning. May you rot in hell. He says, signs of recovery at Warrington Wolves now that they've got a decent, though sniggly coach. Sniggly? What the hell is sniggly? You've got me with that one. You may not now have to wait until April the 5th for the first win when you play York. Indeed. Thank you for that. Pete in Denton. So, Christie Hospital lost 6.5 million in the Icelandic bank crash. If they had that sort of money invested, why are they always asking for charity, for scanners and the like? Well, the answer to that is simple. They were in the process, and still are in the process, of developing the whole palaver. Yeah? So they're building a new car park, for example. You might think car parks are unimportant, but just think about all the rows we have on here about car parks at hospitals. One of the things I think they're building at the moment is a car park. Now, in order to do that, you can't commission the builder. You can't say, right, there's the architect, there's the builder, now build it and we'll see if we can get the money together. You have to get the money together. So it's a bit like if you don't rely on credit and you save up for stuff. So they actually save up their money in banks and they put it in the best bank they can. By best, I mean the one, it turned out to be the worst, but they put it in the one with the biggest rate of interest. So they're saving up. So if you're going to build a new car park and you're going to build a new wing on the hospital, you're looking at 30 and 40 million quid. It doesn't come from nowhere. You've got to save up for it. So that's why they have money in the bank, because they're doing the sensible thing and saving up for stuff. Something perhaps if we had done as a population, we wouldn't be in the muck we're in. Peter in Hyde. Hiya, Peter.
Hello, Alan. I was watching a programme doing that on the television called Inside Out. I don't know if you've seen it.
Oh, yes. It's made here. It's made in this building.
Well, is it? Oh, well, you know what I'm talking about then.
I do.
They've done a programme about that cemetery in Sheffield.
Yeah.
Where there's famous people what left legends to England, same as Percy Batten and people like that.
Yeah.
It's in a disgrace, as you've seen. Don't you think, Alan, all these people what serving time in jail for debt, non-payment of rates, I mean the small-minded criminal, I don't mean the high security criminal, wouldn't it be a good idea, don't you think? You've got to feed them. Why not get them out there and get it cleaned up? It could make a beautiful rest centre for people who want to walk around, which you know and I know. Many people spend many hours in cemeteries walking around and looking at it. It'll finish up as a tourist attraction, that, and get the gravestones stood up, clean the place up, it'll be beautiful. Don't you think it could be done?
Well,
I don't know how many.
Well, within the current rules, no. But is it a good idea?
I think so. I don't know what you think.
They use it in the United States. They have the convicts and the like. They still have the chain gang.
Correct. I've seen that program.
And there's a famous sheriff in America.
Joe.
Yeah.
Sheriff Joe.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what I mean.
And he has
good man.
Well, his policy is if you're coming to jail, it's because you're a bad un.
That's
and you ain't
correct.
coming here on an holiday.
That's
so
correct.
Don't expect colour telly. Don't expect the best of
If you
food.
want your electric, here's some bikes, make your own. I've seen
Exactly.
that.
So he's the one. So that's what he does.
Yeah.
And he has them out on the chain gang,
Correct.
picking up litter and all of that.
Correct.
It's not something we do in this country. I don't know why. We have a sort of, if they go to prison, then they go to prison.
You're pampered.
But that's your view. I would disagree with that view, but never mind. But we have two sentences, don't we? We have sentencing in custody and we have sentencing out of custody.
That's correct,
and
yeah.
those out of custody who are on community service orders,
Yes.
that is precisely the kind of thing that they ought to be doing.
But I think some of them, because when I was looking, I thought, the same was people there have just gone. What have left legends to England. You know, I'm just only speaking metaphorically. And I thought, well, it's a shame the way it is. And I thought, all these people in the shovel, they sit there, they do a bit of exercise. Get them out there working, you've got to feed them, and they'd be too tired to riot, wouldn't they?
Well, I don't know whether they'd be too tired. They might be better equipped. They'd all have a shovel.
No. I know what you mean. And also, these football hooligans, I could cure them in half. How? Well, I'll tell you how.
Go on.
Right? You get these comedians, hooligans, you give them 3 years, right?
Yeah.
But you don't give them 3 years as 3 years in the nick. You say, right, you report to jail on a Friday, and you stay until Monday morning, you go to work, and you pay for your board and lodgings. And it stops hooligans and not the football
Well,
match.
we do that. We don't do, and you pay for your board and lodgings.
Oh, well, I'd make them pay for board and lodgings.
But we do have people who have to present themselves to the police station.
Well, I didn't know that, Alan.
Well, it's not quite going into custody.
Yes.
But they have to present themselves at the police station, say at 3 o'clock on a Saturday when their team are at home and things like that. So we do have that kind of...
I didn't know that.
bail response.
I didn't know that. Oh, it won't be bail with me. It'll be in the shovel, and when you're in there, you'll work.
All right. Good on you, Peter.
Okay,
Peter,
Alan.
ta-ra, mate. Peter says we've got an awful lot of cemeteries around the country, and we have in disarray. And some people find that... Well, they find it painful, particularly if they go and visit their relatives. And there they are, walking through the cemetery, and, OK, they've kept their grave neat and tidy, but the rest of the place is awful, because local authorities and other cemetery owners haven't got the resources to maintain them. They cost a lot of money. You get that horrible thing, don't you? I think it's horrible. I don't have any sentiment about death. I mean, it comes, and that's it. It's over. And, you know, your loved ones are going to die. That's it. That's the reality of our humanity. And the good bit, I've said before that death is the price we pay for sex. And it sounds like, you know, until you get around my age, the deal's crap. But when you're 25, it seems all right, because it's such a long way off. But death is the price we pay for sex. So death isn't something for us all to get too agitated about. But if you go to a cemetery, and they level it, don't they? They take all the gravestones out and lean them on the wall. And then they put grass so that the ride-on lawnmower can get through. What an appalling thing. Why not just say, oh, we'll to hell with this. They're all dead people anyway. Let's grow cabbages. Be far more sensible. Let's grow cabbages or potatoes or whatever. Mind you don't want to pull a spud up with a hand on it, do you? But you know what I mean. Let's do that. But no, what we do is we do the half and half, don't we? We say, well, we can't do it properly, so let's do it badly, cheaply. Oh, that's life. So maybe Peter's got a point. Get the cons doing it. Take them out there, chained together, and get them digging in a straightish line. 0161 228 2255. What do you say? Daniel in Withington. Hiya, Daniel.
Hi, Alan.
What have you got?
All it was, I just was we're promoting Red Nose Day comic relief, and I just wanted to tell everyone about you know, this great charity, what we're promoting, and we've just had one fundraising event at Bar One in Withington, and that was on Saturday night, which went quite well.
And what did you do?
We've done a quiz and raffles. We've got a load of prizes from all the local companies, and we've got some great prizes from Unique Tan and Beauty and all the local, you know, restaurants, and even, you know, things like cuddly toys, which, you know, we got donated, and we raffled everything off, and
Excellent.
Yeah, we done well.
How much did you raise?
We raised, it was over £300 at last count, and we've got another fundraising event which is coming on Thursday the 12th, and that's at Dry Bar in Oldham Street in Manchester.
And you'll be doing?
And this is a fancy dress theme, and there's is £5 entrance admission. And all the door proceeds, as well as, the raffle proceeds and everything else, will all be going to Comic Relief as well.
And what about the bar profit? Because all the advert they're getting, they're going to be making a fortune.
Well, I'm not. Well, the young manager on the bar there said, obviously he's contributing a load of, drinks. There's a load of drinks promotions, and he's took the prices right down as well. For the drinks. So hopefully we're going to try and get a nice big crowd there.
Well done.
We've got some fantastic prizes for Dry Bar as well.
Excellent.
So,
well, I hope it all goes well.
Yeah,
I hope you double it.
I hope to see you there, Alan.
You don't get me in bars. But thank you anyway.
Okay, thanks
Cheers,
a lot.
mate. 0161228 2255. Towards the end of last week, says David, I heard about the man being rushed to hospital to A&E after wanting to commit suicide and having taken an overdose. You might remember this case. His treatment involves some kind of antitoxin injected into his arm. It seems the dose given was too much, and it affected the use of that arm. Though the patient recovered from his own overdose, he successfully sued the NHS for £90,000. That's £90,000 of our money. Maybe self-harming NHS patients should be only accepted for treatment on the understanding the patients accept any risk involved in their treatment. There's only one slight glitch in that, David. He didn't sue the NHS. What he did was he set out to sue the NHS, and the NHS, or its representatives, and that will be, I'm afraid, an insurance company, settled out of court. And the problem there is, and it's always a nightmare, to bring such an action to court, even to defend it, costs, well, probably in this case more than £90,000, and the insurance companies make a monetary judgment. He's prepared to accept 90,000. It'd cost us 100,000 to go to court. We might not win, in which case we'd end up paying a lot more. Let's settle. And it gets on my chest hairs as well. But there you are. I suspect it wasn't a case of them agreeing that they were negligent. I think it's a case of them paying off 90,000 because it's cheaper. And that drives me crazy. I wish they'd fight these things. But I'm with you. It does seem extraordinary, doesn't it? A person attempts to commit suicide with an overdose. They're rushed to hospital. The hospital saves their life, but in so doing, they manage to overprescribe the antidote, for want of a better term, to the poison he's taken, and that, unfortunately, does him harm. I don't think the hospital should even have a question to answer. But that's not the world we live in anymore, is it? We live in a much more mercenary and horrible time. I mean, why doesn't he sue them for all the meals he's going to have? You know, I'm going to have to be eating now till I'm 75. All that food I've got to eat. I've got to have clothes. I've got to have a house. He should have done them for 20 million. He'd have probably got that as well. Hey, Alan, a Wiggins saying, a niggly, a Wiggins saying for someone who's a bit thick is pots for... Oh, no, this is... sorry, here we go. A Wiggins saying for someone who's a bit thick is pots for rags that mon. Also, that's it. He's pots for rags, that mon. He's pots for rags. Oh, dear. There you are. He's pots for rags. That's it. It's a Wiggins saying, apparently. But it's Wigan, you know, we expect it to be odd. And also, have you been to the Lancashire Mining Museum? No, I've not. Doing my family tree. Is it worth a visit? Well, I don't know anything about your family. A Wigan lad from Southport, anyway. I know nothing about your family. I've no idea whether it's worth a visit. But no, I've not been to the Lancashire Mining Museum. I went to it when it was in the park in Salford, but that was about it. I've not been in it since then, I'm afraid. 0161 228 2255. Hello, Alan, says William. Last week you queried the juxtaposition of the words frog and railway in a pub name. I always believed the term referred to the shape when viewed along the rail of the pieces of metal which tie the rails to the sleepers. However, the term also refers to the grooved iron parts at the place where the tracks cross. Good Lord. You've often spoken about Fiddler's Ferry. Yeah, that's because my dad built it. It's thought the name is derived from that of a former licensee of the Ferry Inn called Fiddler. Another, more likely explanation is given by the Victoria County History of Lancashire, which suggests that the name is derived from Adam le Villeur, the fiddler, or hurdy-gurdy man. Finally, did you know that in French Flanders there's a Warrington, pronounced Warrington? I backpacked through there in 2001. I believe the two names are etymologically linked. There you are. Well, they may well be. Warrington began life as what we might call a named town in Roman days, when it was Walling-Toon. And Toon, T-U-N, was 100, wasn't it? It was the Romans divided settlements and things into numbers, so we were 100, which was the sort of residence of 100 soldiers, I think. I'm looking at myself and thinking I ought to know more about my own town's history, but there you are. What the hell? Alan, my dog ate a full bag of daffodil bulbs, is in the vets at present, but he'll be out in the spring. I think I might have walked into that in Boothstown. Thank you very much. Yes. Is the class system still alive? I'll ask that question just like that, really. Is the class system alive and well and living in the United Kingdom? Well, we've done a little trick here. We don't normally do such tricks, but we've done a little trick. Listen to this and see if you think the class system is still alive and well and living in the United Kingdom. I'll play you something that you will have heard in the news earlier. And, well, I'll just play it, and then I'll tell you why I'm playing it.
If you turn and look back to where we started, it's obvious we've come an enormous distance. But if you then turn 180 degrees and look to where we're trying to get to, there's still so far to go. It looks as if you have hardly moved. But that's just a reflection of the scale of the enterprise rather than a reflection of our progress.
Well, that is Air Chief Marshal Sir Jock Stirrup. I know. Anyway, that's his name, rank, and very nearly his number. That's the Air Chief Marshal Sir Jock Stirrup. Why am I playing that? Well, in response to Mark's email. I know not where Mark hails from, but no matter. Whenever a British Army military officer is interviewed by the BBC, such as in your 12 o'clock news, they always seem to have upper-class accents. So how come the toffs are still in control of our military? And still seem to make up most of the British officer class? Contrast this to America, says Mark, where you see and you hear senior officers with ordinary American accents, and of all colours too. Well, yeah, the toffs do still run the military, just like the toffs run the National Health Service, just like the toffs... No, they do. They do. How many senior civil servants don't sound as if they've got a plum in their mouth, as we used to say? The answer is very, very few indeed. Very few. The world is run by the Eton class, if you will. Not everybody who goes to Eton ends up in a senior position, and not everybody in a senior position went to Eton, or indeed Oxford and or Cambridge. But the truth is, that's how it works. And to say that the senior officers of American forces have American accents, yes, they do. But you see, America doesn't have an aristocracy. America doesn't have a class system in the same way that we do. So the accents are all the same. They come from only one bit of European history, traditionally, the United States. So they have one bit of accent, if you like. But to suggest that the people who are running the American army are any more like the trailer trash who get blown to pieces in Afghanistan than our own officers are to the lads who get killed in Afghanistan is utter nonsense. It's utter nonsense. Most of our industry, major industry, big industry, whether that is proper industry with Amarin and all that, or indeed just simple brain industries, if you like, the city and all that, they're all the posh people. That's how it is. You see, to get to the top from the bottom is a long, long journey. But to get to the top from halfway up is not quite as long. So more of them make it. So if you join the army as a private or a trooper or a signalman or what have you, the journey to head of the Ministry of Defence is huge. Huge. But if you join and you fit in with the officer classes and you join as a second lieutenant, you quickly become a lieutenant. Not that far after, you're a major, a captain, and then a major, and I'm not going to go through all the ranks, I'll get them wrong. And then you work your way up. Yes, of course they're going to be the posh people. Why not? That's why middle-class people will move house in order to get closer to a school that will give them a lift up. The working classes you can't afford, you and me, we can't afford to send children to Eton. You need money. It's why I sneered and giggled the other day when George Osborne, the Shadow Chancellor, said that we're going to make people... We're going to do away with the money-for-nothing lifestyle. That's what he said. We're going to do away with the money-for-nothing lifestyle. What he meant was people who sit on their bums and get benefit. Little regard for the fact that he, Cameron, probably Brown, I don't know, but certainly an awful lot of them, they have a money-for-nothing lifestyle. As I said, when Gideon was born, he was a millionaire. He got that for nothing. He got that for being born. It's not a criticism, but if you're doing away with money for nothing, attack the toffs. Just gone 20 to 1 on BBC Radio Manchester. News headlines, Mark Edwardson.
Manchester's Christie Hospital says it'll challenge the government's compensation scheme after it decided not to help it get back the £6.5 million it's invested in a collapsed Icelandic bank. It's reported the dissident Republican group, the Continuity IRA, has claimed responsibility for shooting dead a policeman in Ulster last night. And Tameside Council has been cracking down on drivers fraudulently using blue badges. It's vowed to prosecute anyone it catches. Manchester's weather generally dry this afternoon. Some bright spells too. You can expect highs of 9 Celsius.
BBC Radio Manchester 2020 traffic.
The A580 East Lancs Road in both directions. We've got off-peak roadworks at the moment. It's Goulburn. It's at the Newton Road junction there, just near there. One lane closed and a 30-mile-an-hour speed limit just for that stretch of the East Lancs Road in Goulburn, both ways. We've also got on the Great Ancoats Street roadworks continuing due to the water main repair works. One lane down at Store Street there. It's lane 2 near the Central Resale Park, and that's just through until the 15th of March, so only a few more days to go on that. And Blackburn Road, the 666 in Bolton and Halliwell Road, temporary lights and roadworks for junction improvement work there. Anything else you spot? If you want to update us, call us on 0161 244 4951. I'm Matthew Cameron.
BBC Radio Manchester Sports with Dennis Lloyd.
Hello, good afternoon. Rio Ferdinand looks like giving Manchester United a welcome boost ahead of tomorrow's Champions League last 16 decider with Inter Milan at Old Trafford. Ferdinand appeared to be a major doubt for the game after limping out of Saturday's win over Fulham with an ankle injury, but he's responded well to treatment and was able to take part in training this morning. Tonight, Liverpool and Chelsea both take a 1-0 advantage going into their respective second legs against Real Madrid and Juventus. Stockport duo Dominic Blizzard and James Tunnicliffe will both have late fitness tests ahead of tonight's visit of Hartlepool. The former Rochdale midfielder David Perkins has backed his old club to get promotion to League One. Perkins played a key part in getting Keith Hill's side to the League Two playoff final last season, but has since moved on to Colchester.
Yeah, I think they can. I think they strengthened the squad. I think they made it bigger, and hopefully they won't have to go via the playoffs this year. Keep in touch with Keith and Flickers, which is always good. They're great lads. I've got fond memories at Rochdale.
Rochdale are also in action tonight, as are Bury in League Two, when manager Alan Neil says his side mustn't concern themselves with what other teams around them are doing. The Shakers go to Morecambe this evening, with Neil saying the derby win over Rochdale on Saturday must be forgotten.
I just really try very hard to concentrate on my team and where we're going, really. Whether it be Rochdale or Morecambe on Tuesday, it doesn't matter. It's the next game. For us, everybody will be patting us on the back now, but we quickly put that behind us because it's a real tough game at Morecambe on Tuesday.
Macclesfield's manager Keith Alexander is still waiting on the fitness of 3 of his players ahead of tonight's game against Accrington at the Moss Rose. Defender Paul Morgan is doubtful, while Sean Hussey and Richard Walker will both have late fitness tests. Alexander, meanwhile, believes they need a couple more victories before he can start planning to prepare for next season.
We're looking to try and get 2 or 3 more wins on board as soon as possible. Then we can really relax and have a look at 1 or 2 even younger players that are coming through the system at the minute that need a little bit of a run in the team. We know we need to hit the ground running next season after a disappointing start this season.
Find out how our local sides get on in Manchester Sports from 7. France and Italy will go head-to-head in the contest to host Euro 2016. They'll also face competition from Turkey and a joint bid from Norway and Sweden. England spinner Monty Panesar has been fined 25% of his match fee for excessive appealing during the 5th test against the West Indies in Trinidad. Debutant Amjad Khan has been reprimanded but not fined for the same offence, while Stuart Broad was publicly criticising the match officials. He's been warned. England hope to pull off a miracle and force a win on the last day of the Test series against the Windies. England are 80 for 3 in their second innings, a lead of just 82. And Geoffrey Boycott says they're looking to score at least 130 before lunch, then bowl out the home side in the last 2 sessions.
They haven't won a series for 5 years, so they're 1-0 up. Their instinct throughout the whole Test match, even in the selection of the side, has to be pack it with batsmen and not lose the game. And so you've got to dangle a carrot whereby there's every chance that you'll lose 2-0, but just 1 chance in 10 that they might go for them and cock up.
Australia have beaten South Africa by 175 runs in the second test in Durban. South Africa made 370 and were all out in their second innings, failing to reach their target of 546. St Helens' Maury Fosabaloo will find out tonight if he faces any disciplinary action after being charged with allegedly using a tackling physique that places undue pressure on the joints of players. Sale Sharks back row forward Luke Abraham has been suspended for 8 games by an RFU disciplinary panel. He pleaded guilty to 2 charges of striking with the head, and lock Chris Jones was given a 1-week suspension after pleading guilty to stamping. And Sale captain Jason White retains his place in the Scotland side to face Ireland in the Six Nations at Murrayfield on Saturday.
The next live action on the Northwest's biggest sports station.
There's Football League action tonight with Stockport, Bury, Rochdale and Macclesfield all involved. You can hear live updates on all of them in Manchester Sports from 7.
BBC Radio Manchester.
I could have danced all night. There we go. Here we go. Hang on. Derek in Leeds tried to write to me in dialect. About time they get themselves a gradely dialect book. Sniggly derives from a snig. You might think that helps. An eel-like aquatic creature, and implies an ability to contort on a pinhead. Weaselly, shall we say. Economic with the truth. Enjoy Cheltenham and get on Binocular and Quivega. What is that? Oh, are they horses? Needed a capital B to help me there. There's a horse called Binocular, apparently, and another one, Quivega. I shan't be gambling on the Cheltenham Festival or any of the horses thereat, on account of I've been stood at many a bus stop. I've been stood next to all sorts of people. But when I've been stood at the bus stop, I've never stood next to a bookie. Doreen in Eaton Moor. Hiya, Doreen.
Hi, Alan.
What can we do for you?
Well, I've just spoke to, I think he was one of your researchers. I've had one of these letters, saying that I'm entitled to receive a share of the estate of a deceased relative through my maternal grandparents. Yeah?
Okay.
So I felt very suspicious about it, and so was my husband. But your young man at the station, your radio station, has said that they are a genuine person, but he said he thought I should get through to you and ask your advice. That's basically what it's about.
What is the sender of the letter asking you to do?
Well, they're asking me. I've got a letter of agreement. Yeah. And it's asking me to agree that they will receive a fee equivalent to 10% plus VAT of the share that I receive from the estate when it's received. Now, they're not asking for any money at all. Yeah. I'm just looking, I've got about 3 forms here. It said our standard agreement is enclosed for you to read and sign.
Okay.
It says we appreciate these matters arise out of the blue and take people by surprise, although for visitors and everyday business. I'll cut to the next. The fee we receive via our agreement is the only remuneration we receive. There are no hidden costs, and the company will never ask you to pay any money from your own pocket. Do feel free to take legal advice or to get in contact with us at any time. They have got a website, and your research seemed to think that they were genuine people, but I still feel very suspicious.
Well, you're right to feel suspicious. First of all, what's the likelihood of your maternal grandparent leaving you any money? And when did your maternal grandparents die?
Well, this is it, you see. My mother was 3 when my grandfather died, and that was in 1911. And
don't worry about that. What matters is when your grandparents died.
Yes, that's them.
Oh, that's them. Your mother.
Yeah,
You said your mother was 3.
My mother was 3 when her father died.
Right.
And she was born in 1908.
So it's 1911.
Yeah, and then my grandmother died. I'm 74 now, and my grandmother died when I was 14. So, you know,
was your grandmother comfortably off?
No, she was just a pensioner. Right. And that's why it says they believe that I'm entitled to receive a share of the estate of a deceased relative through shared ancestors, your maternal grandparents. It says we take all the risk in these matters. No one is asked to contribute towards the cost of our research. Our remuneration, our only remuneration comes from any agreements we reach with beneficiaries, and they are asking for, if anything's, received, they want 10% plus VAT.
Right. Well, I suppose at this stage, in that they are not asking you to pay anything, and providing you're sensible enough to never, ever, ever pay anything.
No, me and my husband take notice of everything you say, believe me.
Well, I can't for the moment see what the risk is.
Right.
To you.
Yeah.
Now, what these sound like, you see, normally, when an estate is finalised, it's very difficult to reopen that estate. It's very difficult to go back a long time later, I mean, certainly 80 years later or whatever it is, to go back and say, hang on a minute, you didn't distribute the wealth according to the estate. The only way I can see, and I could be utterly wrong, but the only way I can see is that there is money that has been distributed, should we say, wrongly, is if your maternal grandparent died intestate, in other words, without a will, and they could find no relatives to receive the benefits of the estate, and it went to the government.
Yeah, it does say that is eventually what would happen. There's a couple of various things.
The would happen. It's too long ago for it still to be would happen. You see, if they died, you seem to be telling me they died in what year?
Well, my grandfather died in 1911.
Right, and your
my grandmother died 60 years ago.
Now, I have difficulty in thinking that there is a bank account sitting there with money in it that's worth looking at.
Yeah.
And has not been dealt with. Now, I can't imagine a situation whereby that is the case. Now, it might be, I have no idea, it might be that a millionaire died before them and they've only just now found the beneficiaries of his will, and one of those was your grandparents.
Yeah. Well, I know it's not them because they were just ordinary working people, and I know my grandmother didn't have anything. She didn't leave a will because she had nothing to leave, Well, but it does say that, it says, we believe you're entitled to receive a share of the estate of a deceased relative through shared ancestors.
Well, that's why I say, if it was somebody prior to that, it sounds like a kite flyer.
Yeah, it does.
I can't see what I would expect. I'll tell you what I would do. I would do 2 things. I would ring the Citizens Advice Bureau in the town that the letter has come from.
Right.
And I would ask them if they know this company, and if so, what do they know of it?
Mm-hmm. They have got, well, the actual town it's from is Ipswich in Suffolk.
Then ring Ipswich Citizens Advice Bureau.
Gordon, just me. I'm looking at this and it says Gordon House.
Go on.
That's why I'm
Go on.
Sorry, Alan.
It's all right.
There's a North West Regional Office, which is in Southport.
No, don't bother with that.
No, go to the main one.
Go to the main one. Go to Ipswich Citizens Advice. Well, phone them up and ask them if they're aware of the company.
Right.
Okay. And if they say, no, we've got nothing, well, it's costing out but a phone call.
Oh, of course, yeah. Well, it won't cost me anything to get a free call.
Well, you're doing very well. You should have told us that before we rang you. Anyway, if it was me, I would simply write back and give them the authority to act only in that field. But I would not give them any details whatsoever, because what I fully expect is that the second letter will say, well, in order to pursue it, if you give us your bank details...
Which I wouldn't do that.
Right,
no.
But I mean, I can't perceive of a situation where they have already found some money.
Yeah.
I can't. And frankly, if you could be found, then it seems to me that whoever is currently operating as the executors of that estate could find you.
Well, I'm sure they could. You see, I've just seen something else as well that's in this.
Go on.
Well, it's Dear the Company. You have. This is to me. This is for me to send to them.
Yes.
You have informed me that I may be entitled to a share of the estate of a deceased relative. Yeah. So, as I say, you know, I was just so dubious about the whole thing, really. But the thing is, you see, as well, my brother has mail sent here because he lives in Spain, and he's got the same letters come for him as well.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Well, I would be wary. I would be very wary.
I do feel very wary, actually.
Yeah. And I can't yet see where the hook is. I can't see how they're going to make money out of you.
Well, they say if they
no, never mind that. That's if they're telling the truth. Let's go on the basis.
Exactly.
Let's go on the basis that they're not. I can't see how they're making money out of you if they're not telling the truth. That's where I've got difficulties.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But let's, you know, to write back, I wouldn't give them any authority. That's the important thing. I would write back and say, well, thank you very much for your letter. And yes, if you've tracked down money, then I'm prepared. If you let me know what the sum is and all of that, then I'm prepared to negotiate with you as to your share of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think I will definitely follow your advice, because there's the third clause in this letter that I'm supposed to send back is this agreement is binding on my heirs and assigns. And to be honest with you, I don't really know what that means.
Well, it means that I wouldn't sign an agreement with them, period.
Yeah.
I just wouldn't. On the basis of I don't know who the hell they are.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, just write back and ask for more details of the company.
Yeah, well, actually, there is a website.
No, write back and ask for details.
Write back to them.
Anyone can build a website.
Well, yes, your researcher said that, yeah. I really do feel... I mean, I might get 10 bob, you know.
Well, you might indeed get 10 bob, less their cut. But it doesn't matter. If somebody said to me, would you... If I said to you right now, and I'm not, by the way, before you start suing me, if I said to you, would you like 10 bob for absolutely nothing, I can't see a reason for turning that down.
I know.
Yeah, but I would not give them any authorities to act on your behalf in any circumstance.
No.
But I would write back to them and say, well, excuse me, but feel free, tell me who you are. And give me more details about your company, and I may well be prepared to allow you to negotiate on my behalf or to seek the matter. But at the moment, they're asking you for nothing. But as I say, do those checks.
Yes, I will do. Yeah, I'm not going to do anything. But thanks very much for your advice.
It's all right.
I feel a bit better about it now.
All right, good on you.
Suspicious. Thanks very much.
It's always wise to be suspicious. A good place to start, Doreen. Has it ever happened to you? Have you ever got any money out of that? I've just had a quick look, because I do know the name of the firm. I've just been told it, and so I've had a look at the website, and yeah, it looks like any other website. But then criminal websites don't have a thing at the top where they say, actually, we're just a bunch of thieves, do they? That really wouldn't work, would it? You know what I mean?
Football's promotion and relegation issues will soon be decided. Coverage of tonight's vital League 1 and 2 games from 7.
Have you ever been through that process, and was it beneficial? Do feel free. 0161 228 2255. Radio Manchester at bbc.co.uk. Text number 07786 206 951.
95.1 FM.
DAB Digital Radio.
And the World Wide Web.
This is Manchester.
BBC Radio Manchester.
At 1 o'clock, will the Christie get back millions invested in a failed bank? And the Continuity IRA is said to have claimed responsibility for murdering an Ulster policeman.
United are handed a fitness boost ahead of Inter.
Well, this afternoon is largely dry and bright. We've just got light winds and it should feel pleasantly mild in the sunshine with top temperatures of 9 Celsius.
And we've got ongoing roadworks on Pollard Street in Ancoats. Water main repair work means it's closed between Malta Street and Every Street.
Good afternoon, I'm Mark Edwardson. A court will decide whether the Christie in Manchester will get back the £6.5 million it invested in a failed Icelandic bank. The Financial Services Compensation Scheme decided a claim to get the money back, which is mainly from fundraisers and charitable donations, didn't meet their rules for a payout. John Leach, the Liberal Democrat MP for Withington, says managers at the Christie feel they now have a good case for a judicial review.
I think it's important that we get the message across that we're not happy by the decision. Clearly, the actual decision of the judicial review will be made in a court of law. And I understand that the Christie feel that they have a very strong case in judicial review.
A Manchester MP is urging Republicans who are shielding the gunmen who killed a policeman in Northern Ireland last night to turn them in. Constable Stephen Carroll was murdered in County Armagh 48 hours after 2 British soldiers were shot dead in the province on Saturday night. The Continuity IRA is said to have claimed responsibility for last night's killing. Paul Goggins, the Wythenshawe MP and Northern Ireland Minister, says Republican sympathisers need to search their consciences.
In the end, the way that these people will be brought to justice is where people who know them, who know what they're doing, come forward, give information to the police service so that these people can be prosecuted, taken to court and put behind bars where they deserve to be. It does need that strength of character of people who perhaps in the past may have turned the other way, but now need to come forward and make those statements.
The Chief of the Defence Staff has insisted that British forces are making progress in Afghanistan. Air Chief Marshal Sir Jock Stirrup said they were holding large parts of Helmand province. He rejected a former SAS commander's criticism that the campaign was worthless. The government's defended its plans to provide 6-month teacher training courses to high-flying professionals who want to change career. Teachers' unions say halving the current training period will undermine the profession. But Gordon Brown says he believes it'll make a huge difference to the quality of teaching.
I hope that despite people's initial reservations in the teaching profession, they'll welcome the fact that more people want to come into teaching, that teaching is a higher status profession than ever it's been, that people know the importance of teaching to the potential of all our young children's future, and the more people who bring experience from other areas to teaching, the better it is for teaching.
New figures show that industrial output fell more than twice as fast as expected in January. It shrank at its fastest annual rate since 1981. Police have been given more time to interview 2 men arrested in Scarborough in connection with the murder of a man from Goulburn. 36-year-old Rodney Marsh was found dead in Woodland near Alderley Edge in Cheshire at the end of last month. He'd suffered severe head injuries. A 41-year-old man from Goulburn and a second man who's 25 and from Wigan were arrested in the Yorkshire resort on Sunday. Now, if your child or grandchild was seriously ill, they'd probably spend their lives in and out of hospital. Now, a Bolton mum's campaigning for the government to do more to help sick children to be treated at home. Vicky Howarth was given training by community nurses so her son, Finley, could be given intravenous feeding at home. Today, she's at Westminster to persuade MPs to help.
I hope they will listen to what parents are saying. I mean, we're not the only parents going. There's quite a few parents of these sick children going, and we hope they listen to our experiences and what we're saying. We've been there, we've done it. We know the help is needed. They need to get more community nurses, get just money behind all this good charity work.
BBC Radio Manchester Sports with Dennis Lloyd.
Rio Ferdinand and John O'Shea have both been past fit and will play for Manchester United against Inter Milan tomorrow. Both picked up injuries in the win over Fulham on Saturday, but Sir Alex Ferguson says they'll start the Champions League decider at Old Trafford. England spinner Monty Panesar has been fined 25% of his match fee for excessive appealing during the fifth test against the West Indies in Trinidad. Amjad Khan has been reprimanded but not fined for the same offence. The final day of the series gets underway in an hour's time with a draw looking the likely outcome. England will resume their second innings on 80 for 3, 82 runs ahead of the home side, who lead the series 1-0. Australia have beaten South Africa by 175 runs in the second test in Durban, chasing a target of 546 to win. The home side were all out for 370 in their second innings. And Sale's scrum half Dwayne Peel has been ruled out of Wales's Six Nations game against Italy in Rome with a torn hamstring. Sale's Jason White, though, retains his place in the Scotland side to face Ireland at Murrayfield on Saturday.
BBC Radio Manchester satellite weather with Heather Stott.
Well, this afternoon is largely dry and bright, and we'll see some sunny spells as well. It feels fairly pleasant in the sunshine. We've just got light winds and top temperatures of 9 Celsius.
Allan Beswick, halfway through your workday.
BBC Radio Manchester.
Yeah, you're right. 0161 228 2255, Radio Manchester at bbc.co.uk, and the text number, of course, 07786 206 951. Karen in Haywood. Hiya, Karen.
Hello, Alan.
What can we do for you?
Your caller just before the news about the will situation.
The will search, yeah.
Yeah. There was a TV programme on last year, on the other side, which is currently being rerun on one of the satellite channels.
Oh, right.
Called Air Hunters.
Yeah.
And they featured a company that's based in London, but they have an office in Manchester.
Yeah.
That do this exact same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it shows them following leads and going through the family tree, trying to find people who have died intestate, as you said, and looking for people who are legally entitled to inherit, but they don't necessarily know that side of the family.
Yeah.
So although the letter says that it's through her maternal grandparent, it may be somebody that's died in the last 5-6 years, cousins of cousins of cousins.
Yeah.
And it's quite an interesting programme, actually. They're currently making a third series of it. I'd love to do something like that.
I would if there's a pot of gold at the end of it.
Well, there is. They never actually say on the TV programme how much they actually charge, but obviously they do say that there is a charge, otherwise they wouldn't be doing it. But the interesting thing that I found was that on the TV, when there's a substantial amount of money, they don't do it by letter. They try to contact you by phone and actually turn up at your house. So it may be only a small amount involved, but they do go to the nth degree to try and find these people.
Well, there's two things, aren't there, here? The people you're talking about who turn up at the house, when somebody dies, particularly if they die intestate, but even if they've got a will, and you can't find the people, the solicitors, because for it is usually solicitors that are dealing with this, but the executors, usually a firm of solicitors, but the executors have an obligation to go out and find the people, and they do go to the ends of the earth.
They do.
If the sum is right, and they do if it's a lot of money, turn up at the door and all the rest of it. But that's the solicitors. The implication here is that somebody is going to go on what they call a fishing exercise. The company is a genealogy company.
Yeah.
Now, they will come to you and they'll say, well, OK, you've got these ancestors, and they will then go and try and find some genealogical route by which you might be an inheritant. And good luck to him, I say.
Absolutely.
But
the way this company operates that's featured in the programme, and there's 2 or 3 different companies involved, but the government actually every Thursday issues a list of people who have died and the estates that have accumulated that have not been distributed by way of a will.
Yeah.
And it may be that they've got their information from that particular list.
They may well have done so, and there may be money sitting there right now.
Yeah.
We don't know.
No.
But it's as I say, I'm always the wary one, and I think Doreen was wise to be wary. But yes, there are pockets of money hither and thither, not a bean of which has been distributed sometimes, which I find extraordinary. But there you are. Thank you, Karen. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ta-ra now.
Okay,
Chris
bye-bye.
in Middleton says, with all the media coverage at the moment of our armed forces and how we can show them more respect and help, what I can't get my head around is that they still have to pay for their own board and lodgings out of their wages, whilst criminals and terrorists get theirs for free when in prison. No doubt if the murderers of the 2 young soldiers are ever caught, they'll get the best of everything inside until the next Good Friday agreement or the like is agreed, and they're set free with wallets bulging full of taxpayers' cash. An utter disgrace, says Chris in Middleton. Well, let me just reel back to the first sentence about military paying for their board and lodgings. They never used to. They never used to. When I was in, we didn't pay for our board and lodgings. But then none of us lived outside camp either. And what happened was more and more soldiers, I can't speak for the Air Force, I can't speak of the Air Force or the Navy or any other lot, but in the Army, more and more soldiers were saying, hang on a minute, we're missing out here, we can't get on the property ladder because we live in barracks. And they wanted to live outside. They wanted the right to live outside barracks. And then they said, well, OK, if you want to live outside, you can live outside. Go and live outside the barracks. It's up to you. You want to get a flat in town? That's up to you. Go ahead and do it. And they said, well, hang on a minute, I can't afford it. Because, of course, the wages they were receiving, soldiers at the time, the wages they were receiving, took into account the fact that they get food and clothing and all the rest of it. So they said, well, hang on a minute, if I go and live outside barracks and rent a flat, the guy living in barracks is getting paid more than me because he's getting food and lodgings and all that, and I'm not. So that's when they introduced paying for lodgings, and it was what the soldiers wanted. So let's not have a go at them for that. So it was what the squaddies wanted, and for once in their lifetimes of the military, the soldiers actually got what they wanted. It's only now that it looks a bit weird. A quirk of the legal system is that any person who dies without a will, or any known relatives who died within the old county of Lancashire, well, that passes to the Queen under the auspices of the Duchy of Lancaster, and not to the Treasury. Well, there you go. Mark in Hyde. Hiya.
Hello, Mr. Beswick.
Hello, Mark.
Your lady that was ringing about the will, we had this similar sort of situation.
Oh, did you? Yes.
A few years ago, and like your previous caller said, it wasn't somebody who died hundreds of years ago. It was somebody who died recently.
Yeah.
And what they did, they had no known relatives, and they traced back up the family tree, and then came down the family tree to our side of the family tree. And distributed it that way, and everybody had a letter from the solicitors, which in this case were in Belfast. One member of our family took it upon themselves to do it, and we did it between us, and did it without paying the solicitors. And in the ending up, I can't remember what the starting figure was, but I ended up with, I think, 110 quid.
110 quid?
Yeah.
That's not bad. Well,
because
listen.
it just kept getting split down and split down and split down, you know.
Yeah.
Like my father I had it through my father, who had been dead a few years. So my father's share got split 3 ways between me and my 2 sisters. So basically, the further back up the tree you were, the more you got. That makes sense?
Well, that's fair. Yeah, yes, it does, because if it's distributed to person A, and then he's dead, so it goes to the issue, the children, and there's 8 of them, it's got to be a little bit, and then it goes down the line. Well, of course, person B gets an equal amount to A. If he's got fewer children, each of those children will be worth more.
Exactly, you got it
So
right.
yeah.
So, like you say, it was 110 quid. It was better than a kick in the teeth. But
Exactly so.
It wasn't where we thought we were going to be when we started. It was like, oh, this is going to be all right.
I can tell you from my experience as a rugby player, there's quite a lot of things that are better than a kick in the teeth.
Yeah, I can quite
Quite a
believe
lot.
it. Yeah.
Loads and loads of them. The list is almost endless. In fact, I can only think of two, and two's a very, very relevant number. I can only think of two that's worse.
Yeah, that one of them was what you get when you're playing cricket.
Yeah, I did. I got trud on them once. That wasn't much fun. Anyway, thank you for that, Mark. Thank you.
Very good, thanks.
Cheers.
Bye.
So these companies, they can be legit. We're not saying that one is because we don't know, but they can be legit. Doreen, you need worry less. But I would still write back and say, well, OK, it sounds reasonable this far. Let's see where we've gone. Jeff in Timpley, I've just listened to your last caller and the letter she received regarding the possibility of being entitled to a share in her estate. The lady said the letter referred to a deceased person who may have been a descendant of her grandparents. Given her grandfather died in 1911, it is not inconceivable that the deceased person is an unknown cousin or the like, much the same point that Mark was making. A cousin of my mother, now in his 80s, has researched our family tree, and although I consider our immediate family to be a close one, there are names on this tree who mean absolutely nothing to me, and yet they're related via my great-grandparents. If this lady's grandparents were from large families, surely she could have relatives of which she does not know. That is absolutely true. Everybody's been really helpful. Thank you very much indeed. Doreen, I would worry less, but still, as they say, keep your powder dry. Always keep your powder dry. Don't forget, tomorrow we'll be taking calls from 1 o'clock onwards about digital television. Yes, the turning off of the analogue. And isn't it wonderful how we're all learning new words? Yeah, the turning off the analogue signal and leaving only the digital signal in its place, which we were told last time would be as much as 10 times more strong than it is now. And then, speaking of 10 times more strong, on Friday from 1 o'clock, our guest taking your calls is the Chief Constable of Greater Manchester, Peter Fahey. Alan in Poynton. Hiya, Alan.
Hello, Alan.
What have you got?
Well, this happened to me about 15 years ago.
Oh, right.
I got a letter from a company in London to say that I was due an inheritance, and they would tell me how to get it if I give them, I think it was 25% of the money. Now, I didn't know anybody who died, and I didn't know what to do about it. And then a cousin phoned up and they said, not a real cousin, a cold cousin, said that somebody had died who I'd forgotten all about. It was some long-lost relation of my mother's. And they lived in a little rented terraced house. And she'd seen it in the paper, the local paper. So I contacted the people who wanted to know about me and told me what it was, and it was a substantial amount. And they put me in touch then with the, I forget what they're called now, it's some government body who holds money that's held. And they wanted me to trace my family history to see if there was anyone else who was due any money.
Yeah.
Now, this company from London kept writing to me and ringing me then, wanted to get a deal. Now, as I knew where the pot was, I decided not to go with them and do my own research. And I went back First World War period, trying to trace their family who'd all perished in the First World War and all kinds of things, and I couldn't find anybody to call a relative. After about 12 months, the people holding the pot had contacted me and said, "Is there anyone else? Have you found anybody else?" And I just told them all I had found, and they said, well, we'll give you the authority to get the money from the banks, which I did.
Wow.
Now, and there was no problems. Now, the downside to this lady is they're asking for 10%.
Yeah.
of what they get of the pot, if they found other people, they'll want to do a deal with them as well for 10%.
Yes.
And it might be that all these 10% of the pot, they get the lot.
Well, no, it depends on the wording of it, but they're asking her to sign over because she cannot sign over their right to take 10% of the pot. She can only authorise giving them 10% of hers.
Oh, well, that's okay.
So if, for example, it's £1,000, there are 10 beneficiaries, they each give 10%, on your calculation, that would be the whole of it.
Yeah.
But on the true calculation, they each give 10% of their inheritance. So in truth, out of the £1,000, the company would get 100 because it can get a tenner off each of them.
Yes.
With it?
Yeah.
All right.
They do all this on computer, but it still takes some time. So I should imagine if there must be quite a lump there, otherwise they wouldn't have bothered writing. It's got to be worth their while, hasn't it? And are they going to bother for 10 quid?
It depends on how you consider it. That's one way of looking at it. They must have found a lump and now they're wanting to distribute it.
Yeah.
There again, fishermen drown a lot of worms without catching anything.
They do.
So it's all of that. But yeah, they're a company, you would think that there's a semblance of money there at the first point.
Yeah. That's the easy way to do it, to accept their deal.
Yeah, 10% for all the work you did. I don't know how much the inheritance to you was, and I'm not asking, it's none of my business.
Yeah.
But if it, like the chap who was on before, Mark, he got 110 quid. Frankly, 10% of that is 11 quid.
Yeah.
11 quid for all the money that you did, you'd be out of pocket.
No, I wouldn't have bothered with that.
Good on you, Alan. A lad after me own half, it ain't worth it, no.
It was well worth my trying, but the family history tracing was very valuable as well.
Well, indeed. Well, these companies, or particularly this one that's been in touch with Doreen, is a genealogy company. They do that all the time, so that's meat and drink to them. Good on you, mate. Thank you very much indeed.
Alan.
Been a great help.
Bye.
0161 228 2255. Just gone 20 past 1. BBC Radio Manchester news headlines. Mark Edwardson.
A court will have to decide whether the Christie in Manchester will get back £6.5 million it invested in a failed Icelandic bank. A dissident Republican group, the Continuity IRA, is reported to have admitted murdering a police officer in Northern Ireland last night, and the government's defended its plans to provide 6-month teacher training courses to high-flying professionals who want to change career. Manchester's weather, some bright spells this afternoon, mainly dry, temperatures reaching 9 Celsius.
BBC Radio Manchester, 2020 traffic.
Not too much to report at the moment. All seems fine. All the problems on the M6 are all back to normal now. We have just got some ongoing roadworks to tell you about. Froghall Lane in Warrington between Liverpool Road and Lovely Lane. Bridge maintenance work there through to the middle of April means the road's closed, so expect delays. Also Prince's Parkway, Withington between Barlamore Road and Wilbraham Road, just near the Hough End playing field. Until the end of May, 1 lane down, and that is going to cause some problems during the peak times especially. Seems to be flowing fine at the moment. We've also got off-peak roadworks at Goulburn on the East Lancs Road. Both directions is down to 1 lane at Newton Road, and it's a speed restriction of 30 miles an hour between 9:30 and 3:30 in the day. If you want to update us for anything else, call in on 0161 244 4951. I'm Matthew Cameron.
Decongesting Manchester, one car at a time. 2020 traffic.
BBC Radio Manchester.
Steve in Fallowfield gives us the time, more or less about 8 o'clock in the morning on the Watch programme on satellite. You know that one with the big eye as its logo, and the one that's done for the careers of 2 very famous interviewers. Yeah, never mind. Anyway, it's being repeated, so set your video thingamajig or your whatever it is the hell you've got to record programmes, and you can watch it. Yeah, 8 o'clock. The programme is called Hare Hunters. I say it that way, it's Hare Hunters. But there you are, Hare Hunters. That's the programme. And it's all about these genealogy and legal companies that go chasing inheritances on other people's behalf. So there. Ask and you shall receive, as I'm told the good book says. Mind you, which good book do we mean? And somebody sent me the history of Warrington. Thank you very much. That's been really, really useful. I could have paid attention at school and got it for myself for free, but no matter. Didn't manage that. Alan, why is it that so many power stations have something to do with ferries? Fiddler's Ferry, Ferry Bridge, Queen's Ferry, Clive in Northwich. I don't know why they have so much to do with ferries, but I know why they build them near water. Because you need an awful lot of water in a power station. In fact, at Fiddler's Ferry, in the cooling tower, a bloke I used to know years ago in Preston used to rent you know those big cooling towers? Well, their name is a bit of a giveaway. That's why there's often steam coming out of them. And they use them, rather bizarrely, to cool the water from the generators and all that gubbins. I don't quite know the arithmetic of it and the science of it. I'll ask my dad, he built it, he'll know. But at Fiddler's Ferry, they're in big towers. And at the bottom of each of the tower is a pond. And a pal of mine, he used to be a pal, he's not really now. Anyway, this bloke, because I've not seen him for years, this bloke in Preston used to rent those ponds at the bottom of Fiddler's Ferry power station because the water is rather warm. Because it would be. It's been used to cool things down. So it's taken the heat out and then it distributes it up through the tunnel, up through the chimney. And he used to rent them from Fiddler's Ferry, whoever were the owners at the time. And he used to rent them and breed carp in them. You know, carp, them dead expensive fish. Yeah, he used to do that. Yeah, he did. Fantastic, innit? Amanda in Bury. Hiya, Amanda.
Hi, good afternoon, Alan. How are you doing?
I'm very well.
Oh, good. You just had a couple of minutes ago, a lady on discussing that she got some posts through about somebody who's passed away. Now, something happened similar to me 6 months ago. I got a letter through the post informing me that my late father had some shares in a company and that I was entitled to have the money from them. The money that I was entitled to was £75, and they were going to charge an £80 fee.
Not much of a deal, that really, is it?
Not really.
No.
However, I rang up the company as my father had passed away 17 years ago, so it wasn't, and we'd been through all the processes that you go through when somebody passes away.
Yeah.
So I contacted the company whose number was on there, and to cut a very long story short, about 3 months later, I received 2 cheques totalling £220, and no money was taken from these shares.
Oh, that sounds like a considerably better deal, doesn't it?
It was it was a surprise because, as I say, originally they said, well, we'll write off the £80 fee.
Yes.
And, we'll send you the cheque. And then when I opened the cheques, it seemed they'd found some other accounts as well. So we were considerably better off. And didn't have to pay any fees. So it's worth inquiring about these letters when they do come through, and they can be bona fide, but I think as well, not to sign anything, inquire, and hopefully something comes back.
Oh, well, I might
have
done the right thing by telling them to get back in touch with them and ask for more detail.
Well, I hope so.
Well, it was just luck.
And negotiating the fees with them, as I say, they stopped the fees totally, and they found more money besides.
Marvellous.
So, and like I say, my father passed away 17 years ago, so it is a considerable amount of time.
Yeah.
To find some, and we thought we had all his papers, all his accounts and everything.
But that's the thing with shares, the certificates get hidden in all sorts of places, and not everybody gets certificates because they've got so expensive to produce now.
Yeah.
That they just have their name on a list somewhere.
Well, this was it. It was a name on a list somewhere. This company had found it and were informing us that it was there. And as I say, at first it didn't seem to be much good. You're thinking, well, we're going to have to pay them a £5. But as I say, by just inquiring, that £75 turned to £220, and thank you very much, straight into the bank.
That's all right. Well better than a poke in the eye. Thank you very much, Amanda. Have a good day. I bet you've spent it by now, though, haven't you?
Oh, gosh, well and truly.
Ta-ra, love.
Bye.
Ta-ta. Somebody, I'll get his name, Stephen, has sent me a government website. It's called Bona Vacantia. Yeah, Bonavaca bontia.gov.uk. Bona vacancia. I know. Yeah. And it's all about inheritance and the like. So there. It looks very much the law at the heart of government. So there. About bona vacancia. Bona vacancia means vacant goods. Vacant, you see? Vacancia. Yeah. Never mind. Literally means vacant goods and is the legal name for the ownerless property that passes to the Crown. I didn't know that. We administer the estates of persons who die intestate without kin and collect the assets of dissolved companies and failed trusts. So that's a website. Alteration to costs and charges. Click here to see our current list of advertised estates and make a claim using our online form if you are entitled. So you can go to that and you will presumably see such a list, search alphabetically. Well, OK, I'll see if there's anybody called Beswick. And no, there's not. But listen to this. There's a person called Reginald Alfred Bigg, who died at Kingston in Surrey on the 28th of May this year. And there's Peter Leon, also known as Peter Bray, Bexlon-C, died on the 17th of August this year. Let's have a look. Shall we look up Bones, see if there's anything for Bonesy? I'd hate him to get money and me not. No, there's nothing for Bones, thank God for that. Inevitably, there's a Brown. There are two bakers, two dead bakers. Yeah, bring your own donuts. Denise Ann Baker, spinster of Billinghurst, West Sussex, died on the 9th of March 2008. Poor soul, still warm. 9th of March. Oh, 2008. Yes, I've forgotten the year then. No, she's well cold. And Denise Ann Baker, spinster again. She's died twice. It isn't two different people. It's the same person who's died twice. It not often happens, but there you are. And those are the kind of things. You can go to that website, but that will tell you nothing. What the genealogy company do, of course, they could look up, I'm not saying it is, but they could look up Reginald Alfred Bigg, and they could find out that his second cousin twice removed had it would have to be legitimate, had a legitimate child, and that child's second cousin twice removed is actually your third aunt. And so you're entitled to 12 and 9pence. So that's how it could work. And that's what the genealogy company appear to be doing. They've got the genealogy of this person, so they know that Bigg died, this person, Reginald Alfred Bigg, died in Kingston on Surrey, leaving £1 million. You see, his will was published on the 25th of January 2009. Well, it wasn't published because he didn't have one. He's died intestate, but you know what I mean. He died on the 28th of May last year. And so now the genealogy company's gone there. They've looked up Reginald Alfred Bigg, and they've followed his family tree all the way down the line, and they discover that Allan Beswick is a long-lost relative, as it were, and is now worth 12 and 9pence as a result, and all they've got to do is locate him. So that's what's going on. That's how it's working, providing the company that Doreen is dealing with is a bona fide company, which it probably is. But what can I say? I know not. So there, thank you for that, Stephen. Thank you very much indeed. 0161 228 2255. If you've something to say, you are more than welcome to say it here. Hi, Alan. A rest home near us. This is from Brian, I think. Yeah, no, sorry, Keith, in Blackpool. A rest home near us was run by a woman who was not disabled. She got a disabled badge because she claimed she ferried the disabled people in her rest home around. Fair enough, you may say, but she didn't actually do that. Someone complained about this, and she was warned about using the badge not in accordance with the rules. So after that, she used to take one of her disabled inmates with her, but they never got out the car. They had to sit there while she was off shopping. I know this because my wife helped out at the rest home at times. It's now closed. The owner's dead. Keith, in Blackpool. The fact that she's dead for doing that, they're not related. She just happens to have died. But yeah, but at least it meant the disabled person in her home got a day out, even if it was only to Sainsbury's or what have you. Died in May this year. I bet he's not happy to hear that, says Kevin. Yes, I know I misread it. Thank you, lying in wait like a bloody vulture. Dear God. We all make 'em, you know. Indeed. And I know what yours was. Stop it. And Andy's sent me Warrington's history, a brief history of Warrington. There was a Roman settlement at Wilderspool. In the Roman town there were blacksmiths, bronzesmiths, coppersmiths. Then there were smiths around the corner from us. There were also craftsmen who made things from lead. There were potters in the Roman settlement. However, in the 4th century, Roman towns in England declined. This one was eventually abandoned. The Saxons founded a new settlement at Warrington in the 8th century. However, this was only a small village, but in time it grew in importance. St Elphin's Church existed by the time of the Doomsday. That's the parish church on Manchester Road. Anyway, St Elphin's Church existed by the time of the Doomsday Book, 1086, and probably much earlier. The Normans built a wooden castle in Warrington around 1070. By the beginning of the 12th century, it had grown into a small market town. 1255, which is very nearly 1 o'clock. 1255, Warrington was granted the licence to hold a fair. In the Middle Ages, fairs were like markets, but they were held only once a year and attracted buyers and sellers from a wide... Are you dozing off? There's going to be questions later. Buyers and sellers from a wide area. From 1277, Warrington had 2 fairs, which doesn't seem fair. Stop it. Sometime... Where's he got this from? It's claptrap. Sometime in the 13th century, Warrington was given a charter, a document granting the townspeople certain rights. The right to get thrashed at rugby every bloody week, I think it was. 1292, Warrington was given a second charter. Apparently we'd used up the other one. However, the town remained under the control of the Lord of the Manor. Warrington was a small town in the Middle Ages with a population of several hundred. In the late 13th century, Augustinian friars came to Warrington. They were like monks, but instead of withdrawing from the world, they went out to preach. You didn't get me. 1495, the very end of the Middle Ages, a stone bridge was built over the Mersey. Now listen to this. In 1526, a wealthy man named Sir Thomas Bottler, the grammar school was known as Bottler Grammar for years, left money in his will to found a grammar school. In 1539, Henry VIII closed the friary. Apparently he didn't like chips. I know, it's terrible stuff. I've had enough of it, and it's my hometown, where you're up to. Let's see where we got. 19th century, population was 10,500. Oh, here we go. In 1831, Warrington was connected to Liverpool and Manchester by railway. You see how we write that? As if, like, you all wanted to... You here and all the Scousers wanted to come to Warrington, so we built a railway. I don't think it quite worked like that, but it does sound good. However, like all 19th century towns, Warrington was overcrowded and unsanitary. In 1832, there was a cholera epidemic that killed 169 people. Right, I'm fed up of that now. We're well into it. June in Failsworth. Hiya, June.
Hi, Alan.
What can we do for you?
I wanted to talk to you about the other side of these wills and things.
Oh, please do.
I had an aunt and an uncle who, when they got married, went to live abroad. They came back when there was some trouble. They went to Africa. There was some trouble with the Mama at the time. They came back to live in London. We didn't see a lot of them because we don't live in the London area. We're all in the north. However, we did from time to time connect and speak to them, as you do, Christmas. And my sister was mainly the person who lived in London, who was nearer to them than any of us, who used to visit them and see how they were getting on, only occasionally, not every 5 minutes, if you know what I mean. Anyway, to cut a longer story short, they're both in their 80s. My aunt became ill. She wouldn't have help or anything, and my sister used to go down and periodically and have a talk to them, and they got a phone in, and she arranged for some social help for them and all the rest of it. She finished up having to go in hospital. My uncle was left on his own. He started to not feel well, so my sister was trying to sort him out. He got taken into hospital. Anyway, he told my sister to move some panel in the bath to take some deeds out for the house for him. So she did. Anyway, my auntie died, and then my uncle died within a couple of weeks of her. But because he was not a blood relative, all the money and all the belongings, and there was quite a lot of antiques and things, we didn't get it. We couldn't have anything. The bank told my sister she had to get straight out of the house where she had a key, they told us to get out of the house and she had to hand the keys over to the bank, who obviously seemed to be the executors. And they went to a solicitor, my sister and my other cousin, but they were told that they couldn't have anything because there wasn't a blood line or something. Does that sound right to you?
Yes, it does, yes.
I mean, it's a long time. It's 2 years since now, but it just made me so curious. He was still my uncle.
Well,
and if she was my aunt,
well, when you say he was your uncle, in what way was he your uncle?
Well, he married my mum's sister.
Then he wasn't your uncle.
All right, sorry.
Your mother had a sister. She was his brother-in-law, but not a blood relative.
Right.
So, had it been the sister that owned everything, you might have done.
Well, they both owned everything, but...
Well, yeah, but
she died first, unfortunately.
Right, so when she died, presumably she didn't make a will.
No, neither of them did.
Right, so when she died, in those days, it was probably the case, I don't know, but when she died, everything passed to him. They
both died within a fortnight of each other.
It still doesn't matter. She died, everything passed to him.
All right.
All became his. Yeah. He dies, it gets distributed to his relatives.
Well, he hadn't any, as it happened.
Well, then it goes to the state, probably.
That's what they did with it. All right.
That's why we say on this programme over and over again, for crying out loud, make a will.
But the most upsetting part about... Well, not upsetting, we didn't get any money, all right, but we didn't have any, so what we didn't have, we didn't miss, for comment. But the thing being, the executors had the ashes of them, what you call my uncle through marriage, sent over to my niece to place on his grandmother's grave that was over here in England in the northwest.
Yeah.
You know, they let you do that.
Well,
they let you do the funeral and that, and they paid for everything, obviously.
Yeah.
But yet you don't get a flipping penny.
No, you don't. You have to be related to them to get money.
Yeah, well, we would have been if he'd have died first, wouldn't we?
Well, you wouldn't have been related to him.
No, but my aunt.
But it would have all presumably gone to the aunt.
And we would have done.
And then you would have been a blood relative of the aunt.
So who actually takes this money and all this property?
The government, Chancellor of the Exchequer.
Oh, charming.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
That's who gets it. That's why people should make a will. Because if they don't, the government could, in certain circumstances, get the lot.
Oh, they have, yeah.
Yeah.
So we didn't get done then. We were just misfortune.
You didn't get done, but you could have done better. By a long chalk. Well, never mind. Such is life. Good on you, June.
All right, love.
Cheers.
Bye.
Make a will, and if you're sitting there thinking, I've got nought, then have a look around you. You probably have. You've got a car. Who do you want to have your car? You've got kids. Who do you want? Anyone can have them. Yeah, I understand that. You've got a house, possibly, that you own, and if that's the case, you could be worth a few bob. Make a will, because if you don't do it, then what happens when you snuff it is it goes out according to a preordained system. There are rules of intestacy, to give it its proper title, and you can look them up. If you go on the internet, you'll see your second cousin twice removed gets it, and you can't bear him. Ever since he come round and ate all the jelly when you were 3. It's just gone 20 to 2 on BBC Radio Manchester. News headlines, Jessica Robin.
The Christie in Manchester is applying for a judicial review after it was denied government help to get back the £6.5 million it invested in an Icelandic bank. A Manchester MP is urging Republicans who were shielding the gunman who killed a policeman in Northern Ireland last night to turn them in. And the government's defended its plans to provide 6-month teacher training courses to high-flying professionals who want to change career. Manchester's weather, some bright spells and staying mainly dry, a high of 9 Celsius.
BBC Radio Manchester, 2020 traffic.
We've got an accident on Church Street, Little Lever in Bolton, near Bowness Road. Accident means delays. The road's actually closed there, and it involves a car and a cyclist, the accident. So try and avoid Church Street, Little Lever in Bolton, near Bowness Road. Apart from that, all the motorways and the roads flowing freely around Manchester at the moment. Can't see any problems. Just beware tonight that Stockport playing at Edgeley Park, so it's going to be a busy one in Stockport Town Centre. It's a 7:45 kick-off tonight. Mercy Away, the A6 Bramall Lane and the M60 at Junction 27 all expect to be busy from around 6:30 onwards. If you want to update us, call in on 0161 244 4951. I'm Matthew Cameron.
BBC Radio Manchester. Sports with Dennis Lloyd.
Good afternoon. Rio Ferdinand and John O'Shea are both fit enough to face Inter Milan tomorrow night. Ferdinand in particular was a major doubt for the second leg of Manchester United's last 16 tie in the Champions League after injuring his ankle at Fulham on Saturday. Manager Alex Ferguson, though, is glad he doesn't have to resort to plan B with his team selection.
As it happened, we got Ferdinand and O'Shea. Shea was only precautionary enough, but with Ferdinand's injury, we had to start thinking what the alternatives were. And that's what happens in these situations. We are playing Saturday, Wednesday. And once we got Saturday out the road, then we did two teams, one with Ferdinand in it and one without him in it.
You can hear more from Sir Alex Ferguson with Richard Stead in Manchester now from 5 o'clock. Tonight, Liverpool and Chelsea both take a 1-0 advantage going into their respective second legs against Real Madrid and Juventus. Stockport duo Dominic Blizzard and James Tunnicliffe will both have late fitness tests ahead of tonight's visit of Hartlepool. Bury boss Alan Knill says he doesn't have to ensure the players are performing at their best as they enter the crucial phase of the season. The Shakers go to Morecambe tonight, and Knill says he can see for themselves what's at stake.
I think it was at the start, or it is at the start. We don't really let them get away with much. Training is always intense, but the closer we go towards the end, they see where we can be and what we can do. So I don't think we have to do too much with them. They see for probably the first time in many years here that we can be successful, so they keep themselves focused.
Rochdale host Bradford City off the back of 2 straight defeats. For boss Keith Hill, it's important they get a quick victory.
The longer you go without winning, the more you become used to it. It becomes a habit not winning football matches. So we want to stay with the winning habit. We've had the winning habit for most of the season. Like I said, it's only the first time we tasted defeat twice on the trot.
Macclesfield's manager Keith Alexander is still waiting on the fitness of 3 of his players ahead of tonight's game against Accrington at the Moss Rose. Defender Paul Morgan is doubtful, while Sean Hesse and Richard Walker will have late fitness tests. England are hoping to force a win by scoring quickly on the last day of the Test series against the West Indies in Trinidad. England are 80 for 3 in their second innings, a lead of just 82. England spinner Monty Panesar has been fined 25% of his match fee for excessive appealing during the 5th Test. Amjad Khan has been reprimanded but not fined for the same offence, while Stuart Broad was cleared of publicly criticising the match officials. Despite the referral system, Geoffrey Boycott blames the umpires for creating unrest among the players.
So the umpire on the field is giving decisions. The guy in the box can't tell one way or the other that it's right or wrong, so he has to go with the on-field decision, and the on-field decisions are wrong. It's causing rucking and unpleasantness by some of the players. But if you didn't have the referral system, you'd still have bad umpiring decisions, because the people in the middle are bad umpires. They are bad, not good.
Australia have beaten South Africa by 175 runs in the second Test in Durban, chasing a target of 546 to win. The home side were all out for 370 in their second innings. Sale scrum half Dwayne Peel has been ruled out of Wales's Six Nations game against Italy in Rome on Saturday with a torn hamstring. He's set to be sidelined for a month, meaning he's likely to miss Sale's matches against Bath and Leicester in the Guinness Premiership. Sale's Jason White retains his place in the Scotland side to face Ireland at Murrayfield on Saturday. St Helens Maury Fasivalou will find out tonight if he faces any disciplinary action after being charged with allegedly using a tackling technique that places undue pressure on the joints of players. Finally, Tony McCoy's Mount Binocular is favourite for the featured champion hurdle at 3:20 on the first day of action at the Cheltenham Festival.
The next live action on the Northwest's biggest sports station
Takes place tonight in the Football League with Stockport, Bury, Rochdale and Macclesfield all involved. Find out how they get on. There's live update in Manchester Sports from 7.
Thank you very much indeed. I've just got a great email.
BBC Radio Manchester.
From Mr. Beswick, do you ever get on your own nerves? No, I don't. I never pay any attention to anything I say and rarely listen. So, no, I don't. Mary says, can you mention when that programme's on again? Yeah, it's on. You can record it. It's on at 8 o'clock-ish in the mornings on Watch, as in tick-tock thing on your arm, or Watch as in what you do with the telly, if you're really bored. Anyway, it's repeating a programme that was on previously, and it's called what was it? Hair Seekers or something. H-E-I-R, obviously. Yeah. I don't remember in detail, and I've got rid of the thing. Do you want to know about intestacy? If you die without leaving a valid will, and the law then decide who gets what. Now, if you've got a lawful spouse, i.e. you're legally married, or these days in one of them relationship things, formal relationship, where you've gone through, they called it gay marriage, isn't it? If you're in one of them. Well, this is what happens if you have a lawful, in other words, a legitimised partner, should we say. You've gone through either a marriage or one of them unity jobbies. If your estate's worth less than 125,000, then your spouse gets everything. So your surviving partner, the surviving partner gets everything. If it's worth more than 125,000 and you have no surviving relatives, such as children, grandchildren or parents, then your spouse will still get everything. If you've got a lawful spouse plus children, if your estate's worth less than 125,000, your spouse gets everything. If your estate's worth more, your spouse gets the 125,000, the first 125,000, and a life interest, i.e. the right to take interest on the remainder, but doesn't get the capital. So if you live 250,000, your spouse, when you die, if you've got a child, when you die, your spouse will get the first 125,000 to herself, hisself, but the interest forever on the remaining 125,000. That's it. So it gets complicated after that. If your estate's worth less than 200,000, and if you have a spouse, no children, but parents, brothers, sisters, grandparents, aunts, uncles, blah, blah, blah. If your estate's worth less than 200,000, your spouse gets everything. If your estate's worth more than 200,000, your spouse will get 200,000 plus half the balance. The remaining half goes to the other relatives in this order. Parents, brothers, sisters, half-brothers, sisters, grandparents, aunts, uncles, spouses of aunts, uncles, and on it goes. Look at that, spouses of aunts, uncles. That's worth considering to the lady who was on earlier. But these are the rules now. They're not necessarily the rules of many years ago when her uncle, as she calls him, died. So there you are. I'm not going to go through it all because it is very, very long and in some ways complicated. Terry from Tilsley, because Bona Vacancia doesn't, you remember that website we mentioned earlier, the government website, because Bona Vacancia doesn't publish the value of the estates, only the fact that the estates exist, because Bona Vacancia doesn't publish the value of the estates, what these firms do is take a chance on how much the estates are worth. They have to use their expertise to get the best ones, but because the list is public knowledge, there could be other firms doing the same thing. And so different people could be represented by different firms. And they only advise you with the paperwork, as the beneficiaries have to send the claim themselves. So that's one of the things you need to be aware of. But what we're working towards really is a conclusion that, again, I say to Doreen, the conclusion is that it's nothing to fear. And there may be, who can say, but there may be some small amount of benefit, or even rather larger than small.
Caffeinated Conversation with Heather Stott and Friends.
You're now Northwest Hairdresser of the Year.
I am. How exciting.
Congratulations.
Fantastic.
And the irony is, of course, that we've got you on with Graham Niven this morning. He hasn't got a hair on his head.
Yeah, we discussed it.
Anybody less likely to need Northwest Hairdresser of the Year, less likely to come across.
Heather Stott.
Here's a story of a woman. She won $1 million on the lottery. She's bought some reading glasses and 2 new pairs of shoes worth a total of £170.
Well, I have to say, if I won £1 million, I would buy a piano. That's what I would.
Really?
Caffeinated Conversation, the coffee club with Heather Stott and Friends.
It's often not as painful as you imagine.
Tomorrow morning from 9 on BBC Radio Manchester.
Good grief, Clive. What a way to spend your childhood. In my school days, I only lived about 2 miles from Eton College, which is just on the outskirts of Windsor, and had to change buses there on my way to and from Slough Grammar. Slough, quick, slow. My friend John and I had great times baiting the Etonians, taking swarf, remember that, from our metalwork classes, and getting in their dormitories and putting it in their beds, nicking their clothes from the squash court changing rooms, setting tripwires along the Thames footpath to send the rowing coaches and their bikes heading into the river. Great days. security there wouldn't allow it now. I wonder who our targets are in High Office today. I once made a film about, when I say a film, you know what I mean, a telejobby. I once made a piece of television about, it was about, yes, it was about, Windsor, really, and Her Majesty's big house in Windsor and all the rest of it, eh? So that's fine. So there was that. But we asked to go to Eton College to film there, and they wouldn't let us. Wouldn't let us. Yeah. Such is. If you're interested, the Manchester Evening News, MEN Media, who are the publishers of Manchester Evening News, and 20 other weeklies based in the North West, is closing all editorial offices of its weekly newspapers, which will cost 150 jobs. Staff on the title, this is not the MEN, this is newspapers, weeklies owned by the MEN. Staff on titles, part of the Guardian Media Group, publishers of MediaGuardian.co.uk and the like, were today told of the cuts, which will see the production of the group's weekly newspapers centralised in the MEN offices in Scott Place, as you know, in central Manchester, just off Deansgate. None of the 22 weeklies, which include the Stockport Express and the Rochdale Observer, will close, but the office closures will see 78 editorial jobs going. Office closures will be in Accrington, Ashton, Macclesfield, Oldham, Rochdale, Rosendale, Salford and Wilmslow. So they're centralising the production. There are staff briefings going on as I speak, and there will be a proper statement, as it were, later in the day. So once again, local newspapers struggling, not going to the wall exactly, but certainly struggling. Local newspapers are having a very, very hard time. All the, what we might call non-BBC media, the independent media, all the independent media is struggling at the moment. We heard, didn't we, the other day about a couple of commercial radio stations in our patch that are staring down the barrel of disappearance, as it were. And that would be sad. We are well served by our local newspapers. I used to buy my local newspaper. I don't anymore. They give it away, but I still get it, and I still read it, and I still use it. And I wish more people did. We need local newspapers to survive. We need the media. Without the media, the politicians can do, and worse, can do whatever the hell they like. Whatever the hell they like. First thing a dictator does when he gets, or she for that matter, gets into power, close down the media, take control of the media. Why? Because it's the voice of us. It's our voice, yours and mine. It's the media that takes on these monsters. The armies can't, and the armies won't until their politicians are forced to do it by the media. Anyway, we'll have more on that, of course, the job cuts. Not at the Manchester Evening News. They've cut jobs in recent history, but not at the Manchester Evening News, but some of their, I nearly said sister papers, but I think they're more like the children of, aren't they, really? But some of the local weekly newspapers that is part of the same group. And we'll have more with that with Richard Stead, of course, from 5 today. Tomorrow, again on the grounds of the media, we seem to be somewhat obsessed, don't we? Never mind, I wonder why. Anyway, tomorrow we've got from 1 o'clock onwards, we've got the Digital UK representative coming in to talk about, well, would you guess, digital television, to put your questions to him or her. Don't know who it is yet, but whoever it is, they'll be taking your calls live on the programme. And then on Friday, from 1 o'clock onwards, we've got the Chief Constable of Greater Manchester, Peter Fahy, again, taking your calls live on the programme. And if an elongated S-shaped curve is an ogie, why isn't it called an og? I don't understand that, but thank you anyway, Evelyn in Stockport. I'm sure somewhere along that line it made sense to you, but it were doing out for me was that. But thank you. I'm completely dumbfounded by that, and not for the first time in my life. It's very bizarre. Anyway, what is an ogie? I remember what an ogie was when I was a kid. An ogie was a dirty, great big hot dog sold out the Ogie Bar, which was, I suppose you'd call it a caravan-type building, a trailer that was parked near the Ritz Cinema. That's all I've got. Nothing more than that. Yes, if an elongated S-shaped curve is an ogie, why isn't it called an og? Still working on that, and frankly, not getting anywhere with it. It takes all sorts, does it not? If you can help with any of these wondrous questions that face us all, then do indeed feel free. If you're doing nothing on the... Oh, I forgot the date now. If you're doing nothing on the 19th of March and you want to do something to help raise money for a charity called Children's Aid Robert Browd Memorial Fund Appeal, then I'm doing an audience with Allan Beswick for and on behalf of that charity at Withington Girls' School. So that's at Withington Girls' School, Thursday the 19th of March. That's a week tomorrow, isn't it? Good Lord, the year's disappearing, isn't it? Anyway, Thursday, 19th of March. Get there about 7 o'clock. Tickets are a tenner on the door. If you ring 07764 679 065, you can get further details of how to get tickets. That's 07764 679 065. That's one of the organisers of the UK Ladies Committee. So there. And I'll be there on that evening. And it'll cost you a tenner to get in. And all the profit will go to the charity. None of it goes to me, and rightly so. See you tomorrow. Have a good day. We'll be talking digital.
You could look thinner.